started. Thank you very much for joining us for our student finance session this evening. So just a bit about me. I am the project coordinator for Hepp. I'm Kelly Self. So if you do have any questions after this session, you can always email me. And my email address is k.self@shu.ac.uk. Okay. Hepp is an organisation that's funded by both of our universities in Sheffield. So the University of Sheffield and Sheffield Hallam. Hepp is jointly funded by obviously Sheffield Hallam. We visit lots of schools around the region, so South Yorkshire and North East Derbyshire. So lots of our staff members go out and talk to the students around. Our job is to provide that information that is impartial. Okay, so although we are funded by both universities, we are here to provide impartial advice and guidance. So before we get started, I'm just going to hand you over now to Sammy from Student Finance, and she's going to deliver this presentation for us. And then at the end, we will come back and go back to questions. So if you have got any questions, please can you put them into the chat function and we will answer them at the end of the session. Over to you, Sammy. I'll stop sharing.
Awesome. So hi everybody, my name's Sammy Hutchinson and I am a Funding Information Services Account Manager for the Student Loans Company. And today we're just going to go through a presentation designed to give you an overview of student finance and what the entitlement could be. So I have kept this quite, like I say, high level. So if anybody has any questions, please do pop them in the chat and we can discuss them at the end. So a little bit about Student Finance England and an introduction to SFE. So Student Finance England provide financial support on behalf of the UK government to eligible students from England entering higher education in the UK. There are two main costs yourselves as students will have while studying, and they are tuition fees and living costs. However, SFE do make funding available to help students with both of these costs. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail over the coming slides. So you may be able to get a range of financial help and support, but it does depend on the course that you're going to study, where you live when you're going to study, your household income and your personal circumstances. So again, we will talk about these in a little bit more detail, but throughout the presentation, you will see there is links embedded into this presentation and QR codes, and they are there for your benefit to have a look and see what information is available to you that's available online. If you are unsure of what it is that you are eligible for, like I say, follow that gov.uk link on the bottom of the screen, and then it will go through a series of questions where it will ask you about any eligibility criteria, which covers residency or previous study, and so on and so forth. So there is quite a lot of them throughout. We do have general eligibility that must be met in order to become eligible for financial support from Student Finance England. So students must have a settled status so they can live in the UK without any Home Office restriction. And they must be resident in England on the first day of the first academic year of their course and have been living in the UK for the 3 years immediately prior to this date. However, we do understand that there is obviously differences to that. So again, if you, like say, other residency categories that could potentially be eligible are students who maybe could be eligible for support if they hold a status such as refugee, humanitarian protection, stateless person, or here in the UK under the Ukraine scheme leave. We do have EU, EEA and Swiss nationals with EU SS settled or pre-settled status that may be entitled to support depending on the status awarded and their residency. So I know that can sound like, say, quite complex in terms of what general eligibility looks like, but again, like I say, follow the links that are embedded into the presentation if you are unsure, or reach out to Kelly or Emily and they'll be able to provide you a little bit of context around that. So I'm sure you will have all seen and been made aware of the updates to tuition fees that is going into place from this academic year. So for students who are currently studying, the tuition fee is £9,250 for a full-time undergraduate course. From September, well, August is the beginning of the academic year. From August, that tuition fee is going to be £9,535, which is an uplift of £285 per academic year. That is for a full-time undergraduate course. There is part-time on there and there is accelerated. So again, please do your research in terms of what course it is that you're doing and what the tuition fees are. The tuition fees are paid directly to the university. We pay these when the university confirms students' attendance and registration, and it isn't money that is expected to be paid for by the student to the university. With tuition fees, it is probably the easiest part of the application, in total honesty. You can complete the application form, and between the university determining what their fee is and SLC, they kind of do the work for you with the tuition fees. Although that is the uplift, £9,535, it is up to the university what they charge, and they can charge up to that maximum, and they will base it on course and what have you. So yeah, as I say, tuition fees are the easy part of the application. Maintenance loans. So maintenance loans are a loan that we pay to support students for their living costs whilst at university. There has seen an increase in 3.1% this year. So going into academic year 25-26, there has been an increase by 3.1%, which is up to £414 extra per year. And that is to help students from the lowest income households. But that is dependent on circumstances. So to give you an example, if you have a student who is going to reside at home in the parental home, where the household income is £25,000 or less, and they apply for what we call a means tested application for maintenance loan, they could be awarded £8,877. If you have a student who, let's just say, lives in Durham, but is going to move and get a flat in Sheffield, and they are applying for a means tested application, which means that household income is taken into consideration by mum or dad, mum and partner, dad and partner, etc. Then if the household income is £25,000 or less, again, they could be eligible for £10,544 worth of maintenance loan for support. So it is broken down. So there is kind of, it is tiered in terms of what them thresholds are in order to be able to get the maintenance loan. I mentioned £25,000 there. That is the minimum threshold. So as the household income rises, the maintenance loan does decrease. And to kind of put that into context, I'll give you a little bit of information here. For a student, for a student who has their application means tested, the maximum they can get is in that first column in green. If there is a student who has an application that is not means tested, so no household income is taken into consideration, then it is the middle column, the non-income assessed. But if you add the non-income assessed and the income assessed together, you will get your maximum loan. That income assessed column on your right is the addition to the non-income assessed, and that is paid in tiers in terms of what the household income is. So for example, I'll try and make a little bit more sense out of this for you. If you have a household income of £50,000 a year, and the student takes income assessed, a means tested application, they will get the non-income assessed amount and part of the income assessed element added to it to take it up to what that assessment is going to look like. I hope I've made that kind of clear. If I haven't, I can cover any questions at the end. But one thing to bear in mind is the household income is the income of any parents. It can be step parents, it can be parents' partners, it can be wife, husband, civil partner, or a partner you usually live with. So it's obviously worth taking into consideration and making sure you have all of that information when submitting an application. I will also note, particularly for parents and carers, if you are supporting an application, it is a lot simpler now than what it was a few years ago, where you had to provide P60s, self-assessment for tax returns, etc., etc. Now, if you are supporting an application of, let's say, for example, your daughter fills out their application form, they'll put in mum's details, mum will get an email, and then she'll go on and provide her national insurance number. We do a check with the HMRC. It comes back and it'll say, right, mum or the parent, the spouse, or parent one, for example, earned X amount of money in tax year 23-24. Therefore, when we assess the student's application, they will be eligible for X, however much it is. The student does not see any confirmation of income from the HMRC. It is worth knowing on that. So independent student status. So, apologies, I've gone too quick. If you are not financially supported by your parents or a partner, then you could be classed as an independent student when Student Finance England work out your funding entitlement. There is a lot of information on independent status, and again, I would encourage anybody that if they are a little bit unsure is to have a look. But to keep it quite basic today, I thought I'd pull out kind of the most common statuses that a student might have if they are independent. So to be classed as an independent student, you need to be aged over 25 or over on the first day of the academic year, or meet one of the following criteria. So are or have been married or in a civil partnership, have a care of a person under the age of 18, can evidence and show they've financially supported themselves for 3 years before the start of their course, have no contact or are estranged from their parents, or are a care leaver. So, like I say, please do have a look into the research around the independent status. There is further extra support for students who may have a disability, a long-term health condition, mental health condition, or a specific learning difficulty, and that is in the form of disabled students allowance, which I'll discuss in a little bit more detail. If, as a student, they have children or an adult that depends on them, again, there is childcare grants and adult dependent grants available, and parents' learning allowance. There is extra support for students who might study overseas as part of a UK-based course or go on a clinical placement, and for students who study eligible nursing, midwifery, or allied health profession courses. I would, if it is nursing, midwifery, or allied health profession courses, encourage anybody to go and have a look on the NHS BSA Student Services website, because on there it details the NHS Learning Support Fund, it details the training grant that's available, and also potentially other grants that the NHS do pay. So please do look into them for a little bit more information. In addition to the maintenance loan, other universities and colleges may provide bursaries and scholarships. So there is lots of different information in terms of bursaries and scholarships available out there for students, but it is worth getting in touch with the university that you are looking at applying to. With bursaries and scholarships, eligibility can depend on such things as academic results, household income, course choice, so please do research everything that could be offered to you. I mentioned DSA before, so DSA is a grant, and if we're talking about grants, it's not repayable. And DSA allowance provides help towards additional costs that a student may face due to their disability, long-term health condition, mental health condition, or specific learning difficulty. So DSA does cover a wide selection of disabilities and conditions, and the assessments are based on the specific needs of each individual student, and the DSA support is non-income assessed, and as mentioned, doesn't have to be repaid. With DSA, the student will go through a needs assessment. It is not a test. It's not a way of testing anybody. It's just to make sure that our suppliers who we work with are able to provide the correct support in place for the students starting their course. With DSA, my biggest recommendation that I can always tell everybody is, as soon as the student is applying for their undergraduate application, hopefully very soon when we launch, is to do their DSA application as well. So DSA application does just take a little bit longer. If you are unsure on what is covered under DSA, have a look on that link. There is so much information on there, and it's really, really worth looking into. The maximum amount that a student can get for DSA is 27,783. That isn't paid to the student, by the way. The 27,783 is paid to the supplier for potential equipment, transport, and general allowance. So it just gives that student, make sure they've got all the support in place. So applications. So full-time Student Finance England applications is open in early March. I can now give you a definitive date, which is the 10th of March. So if you know you are going to university this year on the 10th of March, please do get your application in. Go to the gov.uk website and apply for your student finance. Really, really important. You do not need to have a confirmed place at university or college. Apply with your preferred choice, and if you want to change the details later, that is the easiest way to do it. And the reason I say that is because if you leave it later down the line, you do run the risk of not having your finance in place for the beginning of the academic year. The closer we get to June, July and August, we have such things as our peak period, but we also have clearing, which obviously means an increase in applications. So please apply with your preferred choice, and make a change later should you need to. When you are applying, please make sure you give yourself plenty of time to complete the application. 10 minutes is not going to be enough. And obviously, with the application, it is quite in depth. Make sure you've got all of your evidence, and make sure when you apply and you make it right first time. It just makes it much more streamlined, much easier, and that is for both students and for parents or partners. Please make sure you try and get it right first time to avoid any delays in applications. You can go through the application and not provide bank details. Silly, I know, but a lot of students want to go back to the application after they've opened a student bank account, and that is brilliant. But my recommendation is put a note in your phone, an alarm, whatever, to make sure you put them UK bank details in, because without no bank details, you get no money. So when it's completing the application, please make sure you have to hand university and course details, passport, birth certificate, and any other identity or residency evidence that you may need. That may include share codes. If you need to put in share codes, make sure they're to hand. UK bank details and national insurance number, again, really, really important. The easiest way for parents, sponsors to support an application is also through the gov.uk. Doing it online is so much easier, and you can have a record, you can have your own online account, and you can see everything on there as well from your perspective. National insurance numbers for income verification. Make sure when you're logging on, particularly as a parent or sponsor, that you have your national insurance number. You have any details of any other child dependents. But most importantly, if you are being asked, which for this academic year in September starting, you will be asked to confirm household income for the tax year 23-24. If your household income has decreased by 15% or more since then, make sure you get in touch, because what you can do is complete a current year income form And then what we'll do is we'll assess the student based on the projected income for this next coming year, just to make sure that the student is getting the right support. So repayments. So with student loans, they are repayable. So the repayable parts are tuition fees and maintenance loans. Anything that is a grant isn't to be repaid. But undergraduate loans for new students in England are under Plan 5. So make sure you do some research into what Plan 5 looks like. But you do not make any repayments until your income is over a threshold. That threshold currently is £25,000, and that is set in place until April 2027. From April 2027, that threshold will be adjusted. So it's anticipated to go up, which then will mean that you can expect to pay slightly less in terms of repayments. If you study a full-time course, you'll be due to start repaying from the April after completing your course, or leaving or withdrawn, and you'll pay 9% of any income earned over the threshold. And if employed in the UK, the deductions are made from your pay through the tax system. If your income drops below the threshold for many reasons, it can. During the term of your repayment, your repayments will stop, and then after 40 years after repayment, your loan will be cancelled. So the earliest that standard repayments will be made for Plan 5 is April 2026, which is next year. And like I said, we are anticipating that threshold to increase from April 2027. So I base this on currently what we would expect you guys to graduate at, or your children to graduate at in a couple of years' time. So if we base it on projection of 3% inflation, that would put the income tax threshold up to 25,710. 9% of that would be zero, but if you're in the graduate salary now, what they anticipate is as a student leaving and graduating university, at present their income is around £28,000 a year. Therefore, they would potentially pay 9% on the above of 25,000, and the repayment would be approximately £17 a month. So it's just worth noting, obviously, what you can potentially expect to be paying in terms of your student loan. And like I say, it does come straight off your pay before it kind of hits your bank, really. So really, really useful information and resources that I think will be good for people to take away and have a look at. So the Department for Education has published a blog and released a set of resources explaining student finance and what Plan 5 will mean in terms of repayment. You can find information on the DFE Education Hub, but the student room is key to all useful information, hints and tips, making sure you've got applications ready. And in addition to that, you can sign up to our campaign page. That means that you will get notified once our application service launches on the 10th of March. So yes, please do sign up if you're a student on the session, or if you are a parent, ensure that the student is going to sign up for the campaign page. You can also sign up, and then at least you'll get the notification as well. There is a lot of information in terms of eligibility, entitlement and guidance that is readily available, and you can find it on websites, social media, and other UK funding administrators, which are all linked through SFE. So that brings me to the end of my few slides, and I just wanted to kind of cover off 3 main points that I want people to take away from today's session. There is a lot of information on student finance, we understand that, but please ensure that you remember with repayments, it's based on what you earn and not what you owe. Please apply on time when the window opens, which is, like I say, on the 10th of March. Apply with your preferred choice, change it later, and ensure accurate information is provided first time, just to ensure your application goes through and you have all of the funding in place ready for September. So all of that information is on there. There is further information on student finance applications and repayments at gov.uk/student finance. And as mentioned before, you will find information on the student room. Has anybody got any questions?
There's some questions, Sammy. Thank you so much. That was really, really helpful. We've got a few questions. Someone's asked, how does funding work with twins?
In terms of household income?
They've just put, how does it work? So I suppose they're just asking in general, what happens? Do they have to do something different?
So the students will apply as normal. The household income will be taken into consideration, and when the parent provides their household income information, they will be asked about other dependents, and then it will be taken into consideration once the students are assessed. So, for example, they might, so say the household income was over the threshold, but there's 2 children, say, going off to university, then that will be considered and it'll obviously be allocated potentially more funding.
Okay, brilliant. Then the next one is, what maintenance loan do you get for household income above 25,000, and what is the max income? Is that more specific?
No, that's absolutely fine. So the threshold, there is threshold, like obviously 25,000 is the minimum threshold. And then it's kind of based on what the household income is. But to give you an idea, once the household, for a student who is residing at home in the parental home, once that threshold hits just slightly less than 60,000 this year, then the student will be based on a non-income assessed amount. If you've got somebody moving out of the parental home, then it's about 65,000, and then it's classed as non-income assessed. So anywhere between that 25,000 and really 60, it's tiered, and it's based on specific like household income. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, I apologise. Yeah. What I could potentially do is I can share a slide that breaks it down, if that would help actually.
Yeah, or if you want, you could send that to me and I can send that out with the
Yes.
The information. Yeah, that's probably really helpful for them to have. The next one is, what if you have every intention of going to university this year but end up not going due to unforeseen circumstances? Presumably, can you just cancel the application, or how does it work? Yeah.
Absolutely. So like I said, please do apply with your preferred choice. Your preferred choice being wherever that may be. It is so much easier to allow SLC and the university to cancel the application or change the course. Yeah, so get the application in, and then if anything happens and you decide you're not going this year, the application will be cancelled.
Lovely. And just to make everyone aware, this presentation and the recording will be sent out on week commencing the 24th of February. So you'll have that as a record. Next one is, what happens if you work abroad after university?
So so in terms of repayments?
Yeah, I assume that must be, yeah.
So in terms of repayments, that would be so the student would be responsible for setting up a payment with SLC, because obviously there'd be no UK tax system, so it would be the responsibility of the student to ensure that student loan is repaid, and that if obviously say if you're going abroad and you're getting paid into an abroad bank account, then the payment is made. If it goes into a UK bank account, it can still be tracked to make sure that payments are taken.
Okay, some of these might be getting a bit more specific, so you might be able to say that we'll have to answer them and then send them off to them later. Someone's a full-time carer for their younger disabled child and they only get UC and DLA. Do these count as household income?
Universal credit doesn't.
Credit, yeah, right.
What was the other one?
DLA? Disability living allowance, is that?
No, I don't believe that one does. No.
Okay. Thank you. And then any details, updates, this might, as I say, on Sharia compliant student loans finance?
So the Sharia compliance is due to be launched alongside LLE. It's part of the LLE compound that's coming out from January 2027. As it stands at the minute, there is no update on Sharia compliant.
Okay, thank you. If you have a child already at university and another child applying this year, is that taken into consideration?
It will be taken into consideration. It'll determine on the course, where they are, where they're studying, how long they've got left. That'll be taken into consideration when the parent or sponsor, whoever it is, provides their income details.
Yeah. The next one is, do you apply for maintenance and tuition fee loans together?
on one application.
Yeah, lovely. Do you reapply each year of the course?
You do. Every year you'll apply around about the same time, around March time. Obviously this time next year you might apply as a continuing student, but you'll always apply each year to get your tuition fee and maintenance. Because like you say, circumstances can change, and maybe it's 1 year you don't need a maintenance loan, maybe it's however it may work.
Okay, next one is, does the child's DLA and PIP count as household income, or are they independent students?
I don't know, I'll be totally honest.
Okay, we can find that out, that one then.
Yeah, so I imagine no, but like I say, I don't want to be too, because I'm just concerned that if it's living costs that they're in receipt of, what they class that. So it's really difficult, particularly with student finance, because if you're in receipt of anything that is classed as support for living costs, that can be taken into consideration, because a maintenance loan is designed for the same thing. So the government obviously wouldn't duplicate the amount of money that somebody can get.
Okay, well, we can find that out perhaps afterwards, and we can go back. Okay, thank you. When do students receive the money?
Depends when they apply.
Okay.
So that is key. It depends when they apply. If they apply in March and their application is approved and everything is ready, they will go to university, hopefully September at time, I would imagine. The university will confirm their registration and attendance, which then means that their tuition fee will be paid to the university, and then their maintenance loan is paid in 3 instalments. So maintenance loan is paid in 3 instalments in September, January and April, to cover the cost of maintenance.
Yeah, okay. Someone's put 1 minute. Could you? When someone's put, could you please send by email so that we can apply finance by following that link? So is that a link that you must have put on there, maybe? All the links will be sent through, won't they, in the presentation slides? So that's okay.
If that's in terms of applying for student finance, if you literally just type into Google gov.uk/student finance, that will take you to the student finance application page.
Lovely, thank you. Is there interest onto the loan?
Yes, interest is added on the loan from the day that the loan is taken.
Okay, lovely. Who is the loan repayable to, and is an interest applied again, and what rates? Are they different, obviously, each year?
Yeah, so with Plan 5, obviously interest is calculated at RPI, and it depends what RPI is at the time. At the minute, it's 3%, 3.1%. And the repayment, the student loan, the loan is repaid back to student loans. Yeah. And the repayment will come from, like it's done through the UK tax system, so it's obviously done before it even, like you say, once you've graduated and you've got a salary, it'll be taken off before it even hits your bank account.
Yeah, okay. Can an existing student apply for student finance on the 10th of March?
An existing student?
Yeah, so there must be reapplying. Yeah, lovely. What if you're applying for the following year? Do we apply in March this year, or it's next year? So if they're not going to university till the next year, so 2026, will they? So they'll apply in March next year.
March next year.
Yeah, lovely. Is the maintenance loan for help with paying for accommodation as well?
Yeah, so maintenance loan is designed to pay for accommodation and any other costs that they may incur whilst at university.
Lovely. If a child's get an NHS bursary on a Revenant course, will they get a maintenance loan as well?
Say that again.
So someone's on an NHS bursary on a course, will they still get a maintenance loan?
Yes, so anybody who applies for like a grant, the training grant from NHS, that is paid from the NHS. That doesn't prevent you getting a maintenance loan from a student loans company, but you will have to show that you've applied for a loan with SLC to the NHS when you do your application for NHS.
Okay, lovely. Who do you reach out to if your circumstances are unique, extenuating circumstances due to COVID-19 travel restrictions?
In terms of applying,
I assume so. Who do you reach out to? Yeah, I would imagine that it's with regards to applying.
So once the application's been submitted, you'll get like notification on an online account, and then potentially any eligibility evidence that's required it'll be uploaded to that online account in order to assess the application. If it's to do with, if it is impacting entitlement, I would follow the link where it says who qualifies, and if you ask the unsure, reach out to the university student recruitment teams, who will be able to help you with kind of the more specific evidence that you might need.
Lovely. So foster children or kids on special guardianship or order, how do they apply? Is that independent?
They'll apply through the normal application, undergraduate application, and then they can apply as an independent student. But they will be, obviously, they will have to provide evidence, and that'll just be through any letters that they may have from county councils or local authorities.
Lovely, thank you. If a parent is retired, does pension count as household income?
It does.
Okay, thank you. My daughter is hoping to go to uni autumn to do we apply next year? So we've answered that, yes. When parents are not living together and children are under care as single mother, how's the household income calculated?
So if students are living with one parent?
Yeah, mate, I assume that I'm assuming, I could be wrong, that they are living with this with the mother mainly, rather than.
So it would be mum's household income. So she would provide update of her household income, and then the student would be assessed based on what that household income is.
Lovely.
For household income, if you are a student where you live between both, say mum and dad are separated, for example, and you live between them both, it is the one that you spend the majority of the time with. That is who you put down as your sponsor for your application.
Yeah, lovely. That was the next question from someone. Can you let's see. Yeah, I'll come back to that then if there's another tab somewhere. Both my parents are disabled and I'm the only earner at my household. I work part-time but cannot continue and start in uni. How is the household calculated for this situation?
I don't really want to give a definitive answer on that one, simply because everybody's assessment is done on individual basis. When you submit your application, if you are putting both parents down as sponsors, they will be required to provide household income. Dependent on what that household income is, will be dependent on whether it's taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you. I think the next one is, are parents required to pay for the difference of accommodation from what is provided on the maintenance loan? Is there any additional help available? I'm assuming that, yes, they do, but it's bursaries or scholarships or working, isn't it?
Yeah, so the maintenance loan is designed to be a contribution to whatever the living costs are for the student over the course of the year at university. Anything in addition over and above what is paid in terms of the maintenance loan is either paid for by parents. It's usually students working part-time, and then, like, say, reaching out to see if there's any bursaries or scholarships. But generally, bursaries and scholarships, obviously reach out to the universities, but they aren't thousands and thousands of pounds. They're usually a couple of £100.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. And again, that's right, it's about doing research into lots of the bursaries and scholarships, because they're not always easy to find. So do lots of research and ask around when you go to open days. The next one is, yes, the slides are being sent out. Is interest added when you finish the course?
Interest added from when you start the course.
Yeah. How much are parents expected to contribute to maintenance? Obviously, it depends on how much
depends on the circumstances.
Yeah, and where you go to study and where your accommodation is and things, doesn't it? Can you apply for a maintenance loan if you're currently on pre-settled status but on track to obtain settled status during the first year of university?
Say that one again, sorry.
So can they apply for maintenance loan if they're currently on a pre-settled status but on track, so won't get it, and they're on track to get it, but obviously they can't guarantee obtain settled status during that first year, so not at the start of it but during it?
So they would have to, so they would be eligible from when they get that settled status. So
it would be part way through.
Yeah, so the SFE and SLC have just recently changed. The DfE have announced that a student can become eligible now as part of an event, and that event essentially is when that settled status goes into place. So if, for example, settled status goes into place from, say, October, then they will backdate tuition fees and maintenance from the September. However, if settled status goes into effect from, say, March, the student would be expected to pay their own fees for the first term. Again, if it was happening in the second year or whatever, they are responsible up until the point they get that settled status.
Okay. How long does the funding process take from start to finish? I'd say an average. I mean, obviously everybody's different, isn't it?
What, to complete the application form?
Yeah, funding. How long does the funding process take from from the start, from putting it all in to getting the payment?
Application form, I would always ensure you give yourself a good hour to make sure you've got everything uploaded, everything signed, make sure it's all done and dusted. Parents at the same, make sure you've got plenty of time to complete the application. Once the application's been submitted, there is not a case of how long does it take. I mean, you could argue how long's a piece of string sometimes, because it depends when you apply, which is why my key message is apply in March. If a standard happy path application, which might be very straightforward, might take a couple of weeks. But if there is further evidence required, or there's changes to the application or whatever it may be, it can delay the process and take longer. Okay.
The one question about, I think, when we heard about study abroad, what they meant was a year abroad, not work. So if they were doing say a 4-year course, and one of the years is to go abroad, how does student finance work then?
So they'd get a study abroad year, and then the maintenance loan would be purely based on the study abroad, like where they're studying, what the costs are while they're studying. There's quite a few factors that are taken into consideration, but there is an overseas study abroad element to student finance that they would just apply for in the March of that year. So if, for example, say it was the 3rd year that they were going and they were going to study abroad the 3rd year, in the March prior to them going, they'll apply for a year abroad study.
Fantastic. Thank you. If a student borrows to pay the tuition fees and their maximum maintenance, are the repayments the same as if they borrowed the tuition? Wait a minute, I'll come back to that one. When does interest get added to the loan, and how much is interest? We've done that one, so that's all good. So everyone get the non-income maintenance proportion who applies. Does everybody get the non-income maintenance that applies?
Yes, subject to eligibility and entitlement, everybody could be eligible for the non-income assessed amount. It's then the income assessed side of it that then is added on, depending on what the household income is.
Okay. If a student is a student categorised as independent if their parents both live abroad?
No, unfortunately not, because they would have to evidence that they have either no relationship with their parents, so that would go down the estranged route. But if they have contact with their parents and they're still financially dependent on their parents, and there's still relationship, then they can technically be able to provide household income. If it is unsafe or for any reason to contact them for whatever reason, that can have a different, that can obviously impact it. So like you say, there's a couple of different ways you can do that.
Okay. Is it just taxable income that is used, or is it other income as well?
Taxable.
Yeah, okay. If a student has a year in another country where they get income of household, then abroad, yeah, we've done that one. This March or next, we've done that. Yeah, we've done that. So someone was asking about, the bank details bit that you were talking about. Can you repeat what you said about bank details, but was on the application? You leave bank and complete when you open a student bank account. I think that was one of your first slides.
Oh, so yeah, what I was saying is some people do apply for student finance and they don't put the bank details in of where they want the funds paying to. And that is generally because people want to go and open a student bank account, and that's fine. Like I'm quite a big advocate of student bank accounts, because essentially they're there for the benefit of the student, might be like perks and benefits and stuff. It's not something that we kind of talk about with student bank accounts. But do your research into what the best one is, but make sure if you've applied for student finance and you haven't put your bank details in, that you go back into your application before September, before August, and put your bank details in, because otherwise you won't get any money.
Okay. That's the specific one, so we'll have to look at those, and I can come back to you on some of these.
Yeah, any other questions you can just send over to us if you're not sure of the answers on them.
Is there a cut-off salary for parents that may lead to some students not being entitled to any maintenance loan?
No, so everybody would be eligible for the non-income assessed.
Yeah. Okay.
Subject to eligibility entitlement, and then it's just the income assessed side of it.
Okay. And does the student make the application or the parent?
The student makes the application for the student finance. That the parent makes the application to support it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we've answered that one. Yeah, I think we've answered all of those ones. Now let's have a look, see if there's any. Is child maintenance considered as household income?
Oh, I can't remember on that one, actually. Not for sure. I'd have to go away and have a look at that one.
Okay, no worries. So we'll go back to the chat because I've got some more questions in there. Hopefully we just got a few. Done that one. If child is 50-50 custody, is which household income is applicable?
The one that they spend the most time with. The one,
yeah.
The one maybe is where like they live closer to, or in like literally where they spend the most time. If it is completely 50-50, then it would be the decision of the student.
Yeah. Okay. This is probably yeah, I'll have that one's. This one's very specific, so I'll come back to that. Is it the student's bank details and parents' national insurance number on the app? Would the national insurance number be their students?
So the student needs to provide their national insurance number on their application and their bank details, and on the sponsor's application, they'll provide their national insurance number.
Okay, and then one of the last questions is, if the student is the first to go to university in the family, is there any extra support? Don't think through student finance, is there? But I can come into that. So lots of universities offer lots of bursaries and scholarships, and one of them will be first generation to HE. Got any, like that, your care experience, you might find if you're a mature student, got disabilities, lots of different support is out there, but again, it's about research, so it does depend on the institution that you're going to go to, but it's always worth checking with them, because bursaries and scholarships are free money. You don't need to pay it back, and it's obviously really, really handy for the young people when they do go. So yeah, it's not something student finance give, but as I say, all institutions, a lot of them will offer some form for students who are first to go. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully we've answered all your questions. Obviously, if we haven't, please do put any questions you've got to myself. I'm going to share my details again. I am on leave next week, so they might not come back to the week after, but otherwise you can email our main email address. But for now, there's lots of information on our Hepp Hub, so please do go to that. We will put that as well in the chat, the email address, the website address for that. That's just www.hepp.ac.uk. And on there is lots of different advice. There's a parents and carers resource on there. We are just in the process of updating that, but it's literally rebranding more so. There is also, we send out on a termly basis a parent and carer newsletter. So if you would like to receive that, please do sign up by going on to this QR code and registering your email address. Then you can get that on a termly basis, and that comes up with lots of different advice and help to support you while you're supporting your young person. Okay. So thank you so much, Sammy, for that. This is the email addresses that you can come through to. We are now going to raise 2 polls. They will come up into the main screen. You might see one and then it disappear. It's just gone into the chat function. So if you can log in and put your views on there, they are anonymous. So please don't worry when you're writing it, no one knows who's written it. They're now showing on the screen. But as I said, please, if you've got any questions, anything specific or anything that I've missed when I've gone through the chat or the QA, please do drop me an email or our Hepp inbox, and we will do our best to answer those. Some things we'll be able to answer and others will just go to student finance, so to Sammy, and she'll be able to find them out for us or find someone that can. Okay, but thank you so much for your time this tea time. As I said, we will be sending out this presentation and the recording, so you have got that to hand. But again, please make sure you do let us know if you've got any questions. We're here to help. Thank you very much.